Hey everybody, back with Defiance 2050. Because I got nothing else to record. I don't know what else to record. I was going to do a Fallout video, but it crashed. So I'm just like, hey, that means no. Middle of recording, just Fallout just crashed. Which is hilarious.
You can save me! Help me up!
I'll save you, and all these raiders and stuff are gone.
Please help me! This hurts so much! Please help me!
I did get new guns on this game since the last time I uploaded the video of it. It's been a little while. Of this game. Oh. You just healed yourselves. Okay. I don't know what else to record.
Looks like they got to the Arkfall first. We need to
The game I wanted, Outriders, got delayed again. Which is fine. Like, I don't... Like, delay your game, you know? You don't want to have a bad launch like Cyberpunk and Fallout and Anthem and, what else had a bad launch? Diablo 3 had a bad launch. You know, anyone notice that games these days are having, like, even worse launches? Like, I swear, games back in, like, before the Xbox One, like, all the generations before that, there was a lot less bad launch games.
Looks like they brought some backup.
Right?
Get ready.
I mean, they were just kind of just bad games, right? It wasn't like... the game... They were bad, but they weren't, like, completely awful games, you know what I mean? Or it doesn't feel that way. Like, looking back at... you know, games back then, at least from I remember, or at least what I can remember, you know, it's probably just nostalgia. I don't know, maybe it's because games are getting bigger and bigger that, you know, bigger a game is, the more problems it can have. Yeah.
Looks like they brought some backup. Get
Probably why Atari just keeps releasing 2600 and 5200 games. Because, they tried releasing a bunch of like, more updated, like, 360 and PS3 games, and that kind of went bad for them. They went bankrupt in 2013. Well, if you don't know, there's actually been, like, 4 different Ataris, just all sharing the name. And of course I died. But yeah, there's been, like, 4 different Ataris. They each just share the name Atari. Because, it was, like, the original Atari, which made the 2600 and the original Pong consoles. And then Time Warner bought them, and that's basically the 5200. They released, you know, the 5200. Then Time Warner was like, I think, yeah, was it Time Warner? I think it was Time Warner, yeah. They were just like, alright, we're getting out of this video game stuff. That's whenever the video game crash happened. So they sold the Atari name, and, some other guy bought it, Jack Tramiel. If you don't know, he was the owner of Coleco. Or Commodore. He was the original owner of Commodore. Or Coleco. One of those two companies. He was the owner of a different gaming company, and he bought the Atari name, and he made his version of Atari. That's where you see, like, all those Atari computers back in, like, the 80s, and he owned it until the 90s. Like, if you know basically the 7800, the Atari 7800 and the Atari Jaguar were his thing. Alright, then he eventually gave up on Atari after the Jaguar sold incredibly poorly. Yeah, so the Jaguar sold incredibly poorly, and he got rid of his version of Atari. And that's when, I think, 2 different companies bought it from there. Because Hasbro owned the Atari name for a little bit, and then Infogrames bought it. And that's who sort of owns it now. Infogrames Atari went bankrupt in 2013, and then and right now, some French millionaire owns Atari, and that's how you see that Atari VCS Indiegogo console. He's responsible for that. So yeah, there's a very summed up history of the multiple different Ataris.
Pedal to floor.
And we'll see how they go from there. I mean, Atari VCS's Indiegogo page was pretty successful. However, the consoles, their new console, like, yes, the Atari made, like, it is a new console.
Got to the Arkfall first.
It's,
We need to clear them out.
I don't know, it's interesting. It's half console, half computer. Which is not a bad idea. But it's kind of funny, because Atari actually tried that before, back in the 80s. Or 90s. I think it was 89, so, yeah. But there was another Atari kind of console, half computer, called the XEGS. It was half console, half computer. It looks really ugly. It's gray and has like weird faded colored buttons on it.
Looks like they
Really
got
ugly
some
looking
backup.
thing.
Get ready.
I like when new companies get into the console market. I think, you know, like if you look back in like, you know, the 70s through the 90s, we used to have like, you used to be able to pick from like 5, 6, 7, or in the 90s, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different console manufacturers, right? Before it went to, you know, it was 4 and then 3, and we kind of have, yeah. So I think we're gonna see a resurgence in multiple
Looks like they brought
systems
some backup.
again, because
Get ready.
we have what? Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. Like I said, Atari has their thing out, and then in television, Tommy Tallarico is making a new console, though it looks like a foot bath. It's more for old people. It's like he wanted to make a console for old people, which is weird. A weird idea. Like, I mean, not like a retro console. I mean, like, it's a console made like for old people to play. And then, you know, KFC has their KFC console. Which I think is more just, I think that's more just like a fancy computer rather than like an actual console. Though at this point, you know, what's the difference between a modern console and a PC besides the operating system? We're not dealing with custom hardware anymore that, you know. Not like back in, you know, the old days of consoles where everybody had like
Out of control. Stay clear of it.
everybody had like weird like
They never stood a
custom
chance.
chips that like no one else. That's why games would look so different on different consoles all the way back in like the 80s and 90s.
Petrol.
I mean, the Jaguar, the Atari Jaguar I mentioned earlier has three CPUs in it. Yes, three CPUs. Two 32-bit, well, supposedly 32-bit CPUs that act as one CPU. Then there's another CPU that handles the sound. So, Jaguar was not an easy console to develop for. Just doing this Arkfall.
Our Arkfall. Clear them out of here.
I don't know how many people are playing this game. I haven't seen anyone. This is an Arkfall. Usually these will draw in tons of people. This game is dying. I mean, Tryon Worlds did go bankrupt, and they're kind of just being kept. Some other company bought them, and they're just kind of being like kept alive. You know, like they're not. I don't think they're adding any content to this game. It's just kind of, hey, we'll keep your servers up, but
They brought some backup.
you know, you're not giving you money to add stuff. At least I believe that's basically what happened. just a shame. You know, there's not too many shooter RPG MMOs that I know of. If you know any shooter or like, I don't mean like Planet Side, because that's a shooter MMO. I mean like,
All right, there's more coming.
you know,
so
like
hold
this.
your ground.
It's like, you know, you shoot things, but yet you're also doing MMO things. I guess Fallout 76 is also kind of like that, but not really. I just don't think the shooter MMO concept really works because, well, whenever people play shooters, they really like to complain about bullet sponges, which, you know, bullet sponge doesn't matter in, like, World of Warcraft, right? Because, you know, you go up and hit one of the bosses, how many times are you hitting them with your sword, or hitting them with a fireball? You know? But when you add, for some reason, whenever you add in guns as the primary weapon, I mean, I guess hunters have guns in World of Warcraft, but they're more of like spell launchers rather than guns.
Looks like they brought some backup. Get ready.
But for some reason, when you've got guns, right, you can't. People like to complain about bullet sponges. And I guess I sort of get that, but I think that's a problem with like what you're shooting, right? Because the Division 1 had that problem. I think people are complaining about it in the Division 2 now as well. I don't know. I don't play Division 2. Played the first one, but I think it's like what kind of gun you're using versus what you're shooting at. Like in the Division 1, right? People complained about it because you were using a SCAR, right? A gun people are familiar with, you know, 7.62, 308, heavy gun, battle rifle, and you're just pumping like, 20, 30 rounds into a human. It gives off like a bad perception, I guess it would be. However, if you take like a Terminator, like if you were shooting at a Terminator with like an M16, I feel like that's better. Or
in the crystal, it's gonna explode.
Like you need.
Never stood a chance.
To me, to make a shooter MMO work, you need fictional enemies. You can't use humans, because then it just doesn't feel right. Pumping 20, an entire mag of an M16 into a regular man. Okay, that doesn't feel right. Pumping an entire mag of an M16 into a super mutant, like let's say from Fallout, super mutant. All right, that can make more sense because they're basically bulletproof. Their skin's Kevlar, their bones are basically steel.
The split rock
that sort of makes more sense.
By the raiders, and we need to clear this place out. Disabling their sentry guns will get us
I
one
can't do
step
that,
closer
game.
to our goal.
I'm doing the Arkfall. Apparently by myself.
Clear them out, and the Arkfall is ours.
There's someone else here? There's someone shooting. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. Oh, there's just another person. Oh, NPC. Also, when you do have bullet sponge enemies, it always kind of comes down to like the LMGs being the best, just because LMGs and heavy weapons you're not reloading as much.
They brought some backup. Get ready.
When you have a bullet sponge enemy, an SMG is not a very good option. You want something that you can just hold down the trigger on them. Or you need something that has a lot of damage. You know, like a sniper rifle. It just does tons of damage in one shot. Or in the case of Fallout 76, just make a stealth build and you can, you know, solo everything in that game. Even bosses. Because, you know, crouching makes you good at the game. I don't know. Fallout 76 and all of its problems.
Brought some backup.
Especially with balance. Not saying this game's better. I mean, I don't play this game enough to know the balance of it. I do play Fallout 76 a lot to know that despite the game being a lot better than it was at launch, it still has a lot of problems. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I was trying to record it, it crashed. So... why did these random people spawn? Go, game. Holding the trigger. Oh, is that it? I guess so. Alright, to the campaign mission now. It's been 16 minutes. Ugh. This is not the right way.
Be careful.
People always complain, why don't Bethesda games have cars? And people always say, oh, it's the engine can't handle it, right? This game's on the same engine. It's not that the engine can't handle it, it's just that you have to design a map for vehicles to be on. Right? Like, this game's designed for you to drive. They're both on the same engine, more or less. But you see how things are very smooth. You don't see, like, there's rocks, right? There's rocks like that. But there's not a lot of rocks. Like, I can just, you know, I can just drive over here. You know, I can just drive on anything. Because there's no rocks in the way. If you look at a Bethesda map, right, there's rocks and like, cliffs everywhere. Whoa. Never had that happen before. Like you see, I can basically drive anywhere. Even on the rocks, you know. It's how you design the thing.
Echelon mercs will file in to mop up once you're done. This way I can avoid their outrageous casualty fees.
Ah, I don't know. Well, I'm gonna end it here. It's been 18:30 minutes. Alright, see you later. Bye.